Hello, I'm Charles Bensinger. I'm an algae researcher and educator, and we're speaking to you today from the Global Water Center in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And we're going to be talking a little bit today about spirulina, nature's miracle food. Spirulina is what is known as a blue-green algae. And currently, algae is used in many things. Most people aren't aware of the fact that they've been eating algae most of their lives. Algae is found in ice cream, cosmetics, toothpaste, a lot of materials that we may use in our everyday lives. But this particular algae, called spirulina, has unusual applications that are of great value. To explain exactly what is spirulina, it's a microscopic blue-green algae, often called cyanobacteria, as opposed to green algae, which is a different kind of microbe. And it exists as a single-celled organism, and it converts sunlight into chemical or life energy. It's one of the very first photosynthetic life forms, and photosynthesis is arguably the most important, most valuable biochemical reaction on the planet, because it does convert sunlight, CO2, into energy which we can use in the form of plants, and in the case of algae, high levels of protein. Cyanobacteria, or blue-green algae, of which spirulina is one, it formed the evolutionary bridge between bacteria and green plants. This happened about 500 million years ago. Now the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, so 500 million years ago is not too long ago. But at that point, that's when algae conquered the land and essentially gave us trees and animals and plants and all the life forms we see today, including, of course, ourselves, humans. Terrestrial and marine cyanobacteria and algae, these are all various forms of microbial life, generate 70% of the world's oxygen. So without these phytobacteria and marine algae and different forms of algae out there generating oxygen for us, none of us would be here today. Another thing I want to point out is that algae can be so efficient and vastly more efficient than land plants because it doesn't have to make leaves and trunks and all the structure that is required by land plants. And of course, people have been eating algae for thousands of years, really. These are indigenous people in Africa that have been gathering wild spirulina and integrating it into their diet. For the Aztecs, spirulina was one of their most sacred and most powerful foods. They had very, very large ponds in which they cultivated spirulina up until the arrival of the Spanish. The Western diet we know is high in refined foods, low in essential fibers, doesn't give us the vitamins and minerals we really need, and it's of course high in animal and dairy products. And those, the production of animal and dairy products has a very high environmental impact, but we can get more protein more efficiently from spirulina than from these other sources of protein. So it's something that we should be looking at, not necessarily in place of, but along with. Let's just take a quick look at some of the nutritive substances found in spirulina. As I mentioned, it's 60% protein. It's just loaded up with B vitamins, including vitamin B12, which is very rare in plants, vitamin C, vitamin E, calcium, magnesium, zinc, potassium. We've got trace minerals in there. Very important omega-3 fatty acids here, very necessary for brain development and proper neurological system functioning. Beta-carotene, very important for eye health. Nucleic acids, RNA and DNA. And of course chlorophyll, which is very important blood purifier. Here's what spirulina looks like in the microscope. As you can see, it's a spiral shape, and it's a very large microalgae. Certainly there are much larger algae. The marine algae are much bigger, but for the microalgae, spirulina is one of the largest ones. Here again is a graphic depiction of the protein and amino acids, the percentage in spirulina. We can see that that's the largest component, and you can see over here on the right-hand side the breakdown of the different vitamins. Take a quick look at some of the astounding advantages of spirulina protein. This is a comparison of the growing area. So on a particular acre, this would be the comparison of the amount of protein we would be getting from these different sources. So if we're concerned about losing high productivity agricultural land around the world, spirulina would seem to offer a powerful alternative and a way to make high quality protein and reduce energy consumption and reduce water consumption as well. Now there's a pigment in spirulina called phycocyanin, and it is very rare in plants, but it's a very strong component of spirulina, and it has powerful health values and anti-tumor qualities. Also is a very powerful antioxidant, very helpful in terms of preventing or lessening DNA damage in our cells. This is what it looks like. It's a beautiful color, and it's often used in dyes. Here's what large spirulina farms look like, hundreds of acres. This happens to be in Southern California. Here's one in Hawaii. So it can be grown to very large scales, and that's the way it's really done for most commercial purposes. But we like to grow it in greenhouses and in protected systems, which ensures that we have a cleaner product rather than growing it outdoors where it's exposed to environmental influences of different kinds. Some of the spirulina studies are pretty impressive. Now, a lot of people ask about what is the proper daily dose. It's generally recommended that it's something like 5 to 10 grams, not necessarily every day, every few days perhaps, will eventually build up your immune system and reduce any kind of your susceptibility to disease, also give you a lot more energy, and in general improve your health across the board. Here's just a comparison of the land needed to produce 1 kilogram of protein. You can see in the case of spirulina, very small. In the case of grain-fed feedlot beef, very large. Pretty dramatic difference there. This is a comparison of the amount of water used. Again, you can see just a fraction of the amount of water needed to produce feedlot beef is used by spirulina. And of course, we recycle the water when we're growing spirulina as well. And spirulina can grow in brackish water, which is another big positive factor. Here's a comparison of the energy efficiency of growing spirulina, which is vastly more efficient than production of soybeans, corn, or beef. What we're talking about here are what we call the smart urban microfarms in Milwaukee. And a smart or a high protein microfarm is a standalone, self-contained, high efficiency green food production system that would use spirulina as its crop. And given the challenges of growing in a northern climate, innovative use of energy generation will, of course, be necessary to keep the costs low. Now, the smart microfarm was pioneered by a gentleman named Robert Hendrickson, who was one of the founders of Earthrise Spirulina Farms. And his idea is to develop large quantities of high-quality spirulina protein on a regular basis in small distributed systems, generally greenhouse-type systems. And he's using monitoring technologies to ensure that the quality control is of the highest, and we would have experts on board on the electronic monitoring system to ensure that all the parameters of growing the spirulina are kept to the highest quality. And the actual growing systems can be monitored with your iPhone or your smartphone and keep in touch with how the pH levels might be moving up and down, or the optical density levels. All those things are important to ensure high quality product. Here's what a microfarm might look like. In this case, a double set of greenhouses. This is in Oregon. And this is the sort of thing we would like to see be built here in Milwaukee. This is what the processing system looks like. These are devices kind of from the spaghetti business, where these long, thin strands are extruded once the spirulina has been removed from the pond, and then it's dried, and then it's used in all kinds of applications in different kinds of food. We can make protein bars from it. We can make dips, soups. It makes great chips, flour for bread. It's been used in beer and also ice cream and lots of other possible uses. Here again is a comparison of the productivity. This happens to be beef down here, rice, very small amount of productivity compared to algae, in this case spirulina, on the far right-hand side of the picture there. Pretty dramatic difference. Algae is a powerful superfood, and again, just to recap, it is the way to produce the most amount of nutrition on the least amount of area. And here at the Global Water Center, we have an organization called AlgaXperts, and we are currently researching more efficient ways to produce spirulina here in the area. We have some great scientific resources we can bring to bear on designing the systems and instructing people, setting up educational opportunities for people that want to grow this themselves, and to assure the highest quality product. That's our goal. So if you'd like more information, you can get in touch with AlgaXperts here at the Global Water Center. And we'd be glad to speak to anyone about this, and be glad to provide demonstrations and educational opportunities for those of you that would like to know more about this and perhaps get into growing spirulina either for yourself or your community, perhaps to do it as a business, or perhaps maybe even become an exporter. Spirulina is very popular around the world. About 10,000 tons of it are produced annually. It can be worth as much as $90 a pound. In small quantities, in bulk, it probably sells for around $16 a pound. But it's something that has a huge variety of uses and can contribute in a significant way to our health as an individual and as a community. So I thank you very much for your attention.